Hello, Star Wars fans. You know, there are just 3 more days until Christmas 2022. Oh, I hope that you all have your Christmas lists all ready, that you've got your shopping done. And if you live anywhere in the snow belt, so to speak, that you're well supplied for the coming storms, especially up here in Midwest, Northeast. I know that I've got to go and do some work for my dad today. Get some heated water buckets plugged in for the horses and make sure he's all set for the weather. It's going to get pretty brutal here. It's going to be so bad that we canceled an event with reindeer for tomorrow. It's going to be pretty. It's going to be a pretty rough day. So you guys take care of yourselves, stay safe, and all of that. And we've got episode 8 of the Guardians of the Whills. How appropriate for episode 8 that we would cover episode 8, The Last Jedi. So we're going to talk about that. It just went over its 5-year anniversary last Thursday. We missed the anniversary date, but we're here today with some friends to talk about The Last Jedi. And look, the goal today is not to rehash arguments of the past. You have your opinions. I've got my opinions. My guests have their opinions. And I'm pretty sure nobody is going to, Nikki, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, Nikki. Maybe we should get I think we should get a Melvin. So maybe you could help me with this. Get a little Melvin GIF that says the word shill. And we'll upload that to the to YouTube to make the melon or to make the YouTube shill emoji. That would be the perfect thing to do. And I think you could help me out with that. So, but anyway, we all have our opinions about the movie. We're not going to change those. We're just going to have a little bit of a Mike Porter shows up. Did someone say shill? He's like, I heard my name. Here I am. We're going to have a bit of a discussion. What were our opinions when we first saw the movie, first time, coming out of the theater, unfettered? What were your first thoughts? And then where are you today, 5 years later? And then where do you think this will be in another 5 or 15 years? So we're going to bring in a couple of friends. I've got Obsession, Star Wars Obsession, my friend. Good to have you back. Thank you for coming.
Hey, what's going on?
And we have a regular to the channel, Jedi Mike is joined us.
Guys.
and maybe everybody's favorite college shill, Levi Bond. How you doing?
That. I'll take that. I don't have horses to take care of, but it's still 18 degrees. I'm not a fan, so.
You're not a fan. Well, it's going to be single digit here in central Ohio with blizzard warning. We're only supposed to get maybe an inch or two of snow, which isn't going to be bad. It's the 40 to 60 mile an hour winds with that snow that reduce the visibility. And I think blizzard, there's a certain technical definition. Like, it's not the volume of snow, it's about the visibility and the duration of the visibility.
So what's the high?
The high temperature over the weekend is going to be something like 8 degrees.
That's why I live here. It's going to be 62 degrees. That's
62.
exactly why I live here.
Oh my God.
That's exactly. I'll be outside in a t-shirt and shorts. There you go.
I appreciate that obsession. Somebody's got to hold down the fort where it gets 115.
I'll take it all day long.
No way.
Can't take the cold. Oh my God.
Look,
you guys are making I'm putting on blankets right now because you guys are making me so cold with this conversation of Hoth.
Yeah, Meg's like 62. I forget your American Jews Fahrenheit. She probably thinks it's like Mustafar.
Yeah, right. Like, wait a minute. Are you living in the volcano in Honolulu or Hong Kong? What's the matter with you people?
Yeah, there's something wrong with you. Hey, I've got my Christmas shirt on. See, we got the.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So tis this. Oh, and of course, Mike is right on point with the topic of the day. Yeah, it's good. Hey, so we have 3 questions we'll cover as we go through here about. Jedi Jen says Hannah was talking last night on her stream about going to the beach for Christmas in Australia. You know, I've reached out to Hannah, and I know we're in different continents, like other side of the world and all of that. And I would love to get her on as a guest with Meg and perhaps Jason if she's up for that. Absolutely a big fan of Hannah, and her last name is actually what is it? Ray.
Oh yeah.
Oh shoot, I just forgot it. But she's done a great job on Nerd Theory, and I'm a huge fan of hers, and would love to have a little Star Wars chat with her someday. And I think between her and Meg, we could have a fantastic show. So if anybody can get hold of Rayside, Hannah Rayside, yeah. If you can get hold of her, that would be great. I've reached out, but she's like, I don't know this guy. He's a weirdo. I'm not talking to him. So anyhow, we've got The Last Jedi to talk about. We just went over the 5-year anniversary, and there's been a lot of talk about The Last Jedi in the last few days as it concerns this 5-year anniversary. And I thought, well, I really don't want to, try to change anybody's mind. I just want to get some perspective from a group of friends to see, where are you guys on it, and we'll take where the conversation goes. So we'll kind of just go around the horn, and we'll start with you, Obsession. When you saw it the very first time, and you coming out of the theater, you saw it the first time, what were your initial just gut reaction to it?
Well, I mean, I have a different view on things, I think, than most people do on this subject, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I understand a lot of people are not fans of, Luke throwing his lightsaber over his shoulder, or any of these fun events that happened in 8, but I feel like cinematically, I loved what they did. The sequels, people may not like them. They're beautiful. There's a lot of great stuff. I left very happy. I wasn't tuned into the vein that I am now, so I didn't realize at the time there was so much dislike for it. But then again, I wasn't around people who hate everything. So, yeah, I think I thoroughly enjoyed it coming out of it, the first experience.
Excellent. Mike.
Well, I was very happy coming out of it, though I totally remember the cringe in it. Like, and I'm not a cringe. Like, I don't like the word selfie. I don't like the word cringe. I'm old, and I felt it. I felt it with the lightsaber. I felt it with the jokes, but overall, I loved it. The way that it ends, it hits you with the Star Wars music. You're leaving the theater. It wasn't like very recently when I left Wakanda Forever. It was like a great movie, but then it was kind of like, whoa, when you left, you're like, I don't know how I feel. I remember leaving The Last Jedi feeling very good. It was super dope. And I saw it multiple times. And then I got to go back and see it with my daughter, right? We'll talk about daughters and how that affects the sequels later. But I love it.
Yeah.
And I still do. I love The Last Jedi. Boom.
Excellent. Levi.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have a very diverse panel here in terms of
No,
opinions,
look, Melvin's going to blow
Could
this
that
up.
Melvin, this one's going to be rough for the.
Could that have been planned?
I have no chance. Nikki is here. She's going to report. Like, the sirens are going off. There's red alerts going on. Like, she'll stream.
But yeah,
the chill siren is going off.
So I was sitting there in the theater 5 years ago, which is crazy. I was 16 years old, if you can believe that.
I can.
You can, yeah. And I looked at my friends and I said, so that was like the greatest movie ever made, right? But that was my first reaction. That was my initial reaction. And I got to include the 3 because I saw it 3 times in the first week. And then I got out into the world and everyone was just, you know how it was. And then so I saw it a second time and I watched it and I was like, man, I don't know if I do like this movie. I went, I was, it was such a clouded moment. Like I couldn't see the film. All I saw was all these comments I had seen online. And so I really, like that second viewing, I was like, this is not a very good movie. And then at the very end of the week, I went to see it in theaters. We took my grandma. It was my family and my grandma, like my family showing. And my grandma has not seen a Star Wars movie since Empire Strikes Back in theaters. She's like, what's happening? I don't know. But we like went to a diner afterwards and we sat down and she was like, I love that movie. And she's like talking about Luke's journey and like she hasn't seen a Star Wars movie for like 40 years. And I was like, if this movie could connect with her, it connected with me. I do love this movie. My feelings are real. And then since then, I've been positive.
That's good. Well, so we're pretty unanimous here. This is, again, we don't have a lot of diversity in opinion regarding The Last Jedi. What I thought, there were a few moments during the movie that didn't strike well with me, for sure. I did not care for the saber over the shoulder. I was like, that was weird. And then the Leia Poppins, as it's affectionately called today, I was like, that's odd looking, right? That's like visually. The rest of the movie,
I love that. I will stand up for that scene every time.
Well, it was visually stunning movie, and the story captured me. And I remember like when Yoda showed up and sat next to Luke, that was a cheering moment in the theater. Like we were watching it, and all of a sudden the cheer like erupted in the theater when we saw Yoda on screen. It was like we got the original trilogy Yoda back. This isn't CG Yoda. This is like the real Yoda. Everybody was just, cheering. And I left the movie on a really, really big high, thinking, "Wow, that was maybe
like Neo high, like how high, like Neo high,
like Neo energy high." Yeah, I was absolutely thrilled to death with it, with a couple of little criticisms, and those were minor. It was more about the visual aesthetic of it, not the story itself.
Look, this movie had, as much as everybody hates this movie and hates the person that made it, this particular movie has such great messaging, right? Like Yoda's messaging is basically the best, probably one of the best lines in all of Star Wars for me, right? Luke and him sitting together when Luke finally reconnects himself, and Yoda just kind of giggling and being like, "Man, I missed you. You're so funny," right? Like he's just having a great time, and then he gets into his lesson. It's the same Yoda we always had. He always wanted to have fun, especially older Yoda, right? Especially Return of the Jedi Yoda. He was always cracking jokes on himself and making himself laugh. This was the same feeling. And then you got the best lesson in all of Star Wars, right? He's telling him how everybody fears failure, right? Mm-hmm. Failure should be embraced. That's how we learn, right? That's the biggest message of this movie. On top of that, it really makes me happy that the Holdo maneuver pisses so many people off, and that purple-haired woman just lights some of the fandom on fire. It just gives me warm and fuzzies.
Well, let me I talk about a couple things you mentioned there, in that the biggest failure, a teacher is, right? Like that is a really big lesson, and it does have a resonating. And I know a lot of people make fun of the scene with Rose Tico saying we fight for what we love, right, and not for what we hate. People make fun of that. And I was like, well, it's actually a really good message. As cheesy as the line may be, are you really going to criticize the dialogue for being
threw down his
cheesy?
lightsaber in front of the Emperor and said, "I am a Jedi like my father before me"? It's almost like,
well, I mean,
not fighting what he hated, but saving what he loved. It's crazy.
Can you criticize cheesy dialogue in Star Wars? Like, isn't that like the essence of Star Wars? Cheesy dialogue. It's
yes.
like.
Yes, but on top of that, look, and a lot of people also have problems with, the Yoda scene, not just the dialogue, but the Yoda scene in general with the lightning and the tree and all this stuff. this for me, these are um these are
Foundational?
these are the things that they talked about that we never got to see, right? When Ben Kenobi stands in front of Vader and he's like, strike me down, do it. I will become more powerful than you can possibly imagine, right? This is that, right? This is an example of that. Being everywhere all the time is what the evolution, the ascension that happens with Jedi. And so with particular Jedi that go down this path. So for me, these are exclamation points on things that George Lucas put out there, right? Not everybody agrees with that, but to me, that's an impactful scene that goes back to George's writing.
Definitely doesn't make any sense.
Let me pause the discussion for just one moment. Bespin Bulletin, I'm aware, has a pretty big story in the queue.
Drop it.
Right?
Tell us here. Drop it.
I'm not telling anything.
Drop it.
I just know that there's a story to be told, and that Bespin Bulletin has the lead on it. All I want to know, Bespin, is when are you going to publish it? When are you going to publish it? That's all I need to know.
Bespin Bulletin right now.
Just tell us.
I know.
Here. Just
You need
type
to tell me.
The stream.
You guys be sure you're following Bespin Bulletin. Buy him a coffee. You know, the guy does a lot of work. He needs the caffeine.
Yeah,
And-
support real journalism.
And all this time, he can't even spell coffee. It's crazy. Like, I don't get it.
right?
A and an F and an
Like,
I.
come on
Like,
now.
I
You,
don't
you've got
understand.
this addiction. You at least learn how to spell it. Yeah.
Obsession. The last couple of days, as we've been building up to this Santa stream too, and celebrating the 5th anniversary, it's funny. My mind is like, I do not understand how people do not see the foundational awesomeness of literally that moment with the Jedi books and Yoda and Luke. Like, you don't think this is Star Wars? Like,
Well,
I don't. But that's
yeah.
a
Let's talk. So let's talk a little bit about that. So I came out of Last Jedi on a high, and then started interacting with the internet, and then's when I learned, oh, holy moly! Like I'm 55 years old, right? I saw Star Wars in 1977 when I was 10. Like, I was the perfect age at 10 years old in 1977, and it was just like Star Wars foundational part of my life. And I saw Last Jedi, and I was like, yeah, man, that was great. That redeemed the prequels for me. I'm like, I'm in. And I come out, and my peers, people who are my age or just younger than me, were livid, right? They lost their freaking minds. I was like, wait, I can't understand what's going on. And so that got me engaged in the YouTube community. It got me down this path that I'm on now, and why this channel exists, because I started following folks like Thor Skywalker, for example. I started following the Den of Nerds, and I followed Girls with Sabers and a bunch of other folks. And I was just like, I need to understand this fandom. I'm confused. And started to see some of the complaints. So what was your response to the negativity that came out of it? Did you have a equal and opposite reaction, or like me, just confused?
I would love to tell you that I had the same reaction as you, but I was ahead of you. Like, I already saw some of the what we call social justice stuff that was happening, right, with the marketing and all that pre-marketing bullshit that they were trying to do to tampen down whatever their own expectations. Like, that's what I saw, but it didn't dissuade me, because I fight for people that, you know, are marginalized like that. I do that all the time. So I don't know. For me, it didn't affect me. That part of it, loving it.
Yeah.
How about you, Levi?
It's interesting. For whatever reason, Force Awakens didn't, because I grew up with the prequels. Those were my Star Wars movies, and I liked Force Awakens, but Force Awakens wasn't the one that like really reignited the Star Wars passion for me. And for whatever reason, it was this movie that this is what, like, my reaction to seeing all this negativity was just to dive even deeper into Star Wars. This was the Last Jedi is the reason why I've read all these books, why I've read all these comics. I didn't do that. Like that wasn't really a thing I did until I just, as a reaction, I just went, I need to understand everything about this because I want to know, and we can talk about it. Like, Obsession brought up George's, like the through line from George's influences. And for me, almost everything in this movie and Ryan's talked about, like, has an influence directly from something that George did in the original trilogy. I mean, particularly with Luke and choosing to leave. And we can talk about all that, but yeah, it just made me want to dive in more. So that was my reaction. I was like, I wasn't ready to start a channel yet. I was like, I'm afraid. I just want more Star Wars.
Before Obsession you say anything, the reason I was holding up the book is not only did I know about controversy before the movie, I read the book. I was psyched. I was pulled back into Star Wars for Force Awakens. I love that part of the Force Awakens. And so I already knew what Luke was doing. If you didn't know what the hell he was doing before, then you wouldn't have as much context. So am I a shill? Like, I don't know. I know what he was doing with the spearfishing because I know his journey. It's weird. What do you think, Obsession?
Well, I mean, the divide has always been present, right? Back from the original films, back from the original trilogy, the divide has always been real. So I kind of expected that based on what happened with the prequels. I was absolutely expecting the negativity. There's a lot of things in the prequels that a lot of people didn't like. And the same goes this way. I was absolutely expecting the negativity to show its face, especially in the second movie. So it really didn't surprise me, and it still doesn't. Wow. And to be clear, I'd like to clear something up. The term shill, okay, if you're going to call me something, call me a fanboy.
Used affectionately in this community.
Call me with anything but a shill. I don't get paid. These people don't pay me. Look, right? Know the definitions of words if you're going to call me something. Right?
I'm speaking it into existence. If please pay me.
Yeah, right?
That's what I'm saying. If you're gonna manifest, I can be bought. Okay,
me too.
My fandom
I'm willing
can be bought.
I'm
buy it.
Buy me. Take me.
Disney, pay me.
I'm here.
I will shill the hell out all day, every day. I'll stay away from all the naughty words you don't want me to use. if you're gonna shill me out, pay me. Right?
Send me the contract.
Find another word.
I will sign it.
That's all I'm saying. It's just like woke. It's just like all these words that get taken out of obscurity and then molded into this little thing you want to put us on, and then you put us on it. Call me what I am, right?
Look, I've like Nikki said, I've just learned to I've learned to embrace it. Because I agree with you, Obsession. I agree.
To be real smart people. Y'all are supposed to be smarter than me because I'm just a dumb shill. Find the right word. That's all.
I would love to be a shill. Right word. I aspire one day to be a shill.
I'd love to be a shill. I'd love them to pay me. I'd love it, but use the right word.
Well, I'm definitely a love shill. I mean, Star Wars feeds me love, and I like to feed other people love. So I shill the reality of what I love within Star Wars. Like, I do shill that.
It's like Mike Porter, right? He's paid by the wealth of content.
That's it.
Yeah. So like Levi, so as I started, I'll go back to Thor Skywalker's community. It was the first channel I ever subbed to, became a Patreon supporter of, and joined a Discord. I'd never done any of that before. And then interacting in Thor Skywalker's community opened my eyes to this larger world of conversation. And like Levi, I didn't really read much of the expanded universe content before. I've mentioned many times that I did read Heir to the Empire back in the day. I read a few other books along the way when people were telling me, hey, Brian, you've really got to read this. It's fantastic. Sometimes I read it, sometimes I wouldn't. But not much, because I never had the understanding that that was actual canon, and that it was anything that George was using. It was, in my mind, and this is an offensive word, I think, to me, when people say the sequels, that's just fan fiction. That's offensive to me, but that's just me personally. I don't know why, it just strikes a nerve. But to me, the EU was fan fiction in my mind, and I was just like not into it. But along the way, in talking with Thor's community, they kept recommending, hey, you got to go read this. You got to read this. You got to read this other thing. Like, if you think this is good, you got to go read that, because that is really good. And what you think is good is not good.
But
I'll be like,
it's great for reference, right? The part that, look, the EU Legends, all that stuff, it's great. It's a great read. It's entertaining. But, just like everything else that they've plucked in the last couple years, a lot of this comes from that literature. So Disney could have saved this stuff and said, okay, everything is canon. But that is such a divided timeline. That's basically what the MCU is going through right now, is there's too many timelines. There's too many of this and too many of that. And based on what I'm hearing about Ahsoka, everybody is, my biggest concern is that I don't want a multiverse of Star Wars, right?
yeah, I don't think you're going to get one. First of all,
I don't either.
Let me assuage any fears you have.
Right,
the,
right.
The whole World Between Worlds is not going to open a multiverse in Star Wars, and I don't want to go that direction. There's a bunch of stuff that we could get drug off topic, so let's not do that. But
with what I'm saying is that I lost my train. It's gone.
Sorry, obsession. It'll come back to you.
It'll come back. It'll boomerang, or it was a lie anyway.
So my eyes were open. I was exposed to a lot of the controversy. Like, for example, the Luke Skywalker. Like, that seems to be the biggest burr in anybody's saddle, right? Like, that's the thing that annoys people the most. Over time, I've seen things start to die down on other through lines, but the Luke Skywalker thing is the unforgivable sin, right, for many folks.
Which part specifically?
Yeah, I'll get.
Yeah, the unforgivable sin is that they cannot control the narrative.
His
like,
the way he died.
Humanity, you control freaks. Hello.
I want to know which specific thing. Or is it the whole thing? Because it's like, is it his exile? Is it his reconnection? Is it the way he died? Like, which sin are we talking about? Because to a lot of people, there's several.
Well, look, first of all, let me just start by not attacking the people who think that, right? Let's not do that.
No, I'm not.
No, I'm just starting. I'm starting with that kind of premise. Let's not call them names, but just say this is a thing that they have. For me, I never had the problem. And then much of what they complain about, to your question exactly, is him being a hermit, that he gave up, that he's a quitter, that he's dejected, that he is, what are the, all that.
Yeah, okay. So the overall Luke Skywalker we got in the sequels is what there is all of the encompassing. So it's the entire.
It is.
Okay.
Cool. Let me preface it just a little bit, because and let me show this on screen. I want to show, because yesterday, and we've recommended this before. If you go to Disney Plus and you go to The Last Jedi, I know. Look, for many of you, this alone will make you feel dirty, and you'll have to go take a shower. I get it, right? But just try it. It'll be okay. Go to The Last Jedi. Don't watch the movie. I get it. Don't do that. But go to the extras tab, right? And in the extras tab, there's a bunch of stuff, right? There's cut scenes, and there's this and that and the other thing. There's a wonderful documentary in here that I highly, highly recommend. But I also want to encourage you. You have to scroll really far. You scroll. You keep scrolling. Keep scrolling. You're not done yet. Keep scrolling. More scrolling. Here. Play movie with commentary. This. Now, over top of it, you'll hear, again,
the voice of the devil.
Of you, the voice of the devil, Satan himself. You'll have to endure it. But let me encourage you. Try. If you'll go watch this commentary, and I'm gonna bring up a particular part here. I need to mute it just so we don't get in too much trouble. Ryan talks about Luke's journey in here, and let me go back to where he's mentioning it, and he talks about how, look, he was a Luke Skywalker fan growing up. He let's see if this is it. I'll let this play just a little bit. I got to watch because, Disney will come after me.
Mouse.
Proof that I'm not a shill. Right.
Oh,
but anyway.
Oh, Santa,
It's
you
all-
better turn that stuff off right away.
I know. So he's talking about how here it seemed natural for him to toss the saber, and Mike's holding up the book. I do recommend the book because you get to see the inner dialogue in his mind.
Yeah.
That is a really part of. It's a really big part of the story.
One of the most.
And then
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think this is not where I wanted. I got to go back. Here we go. Yeah, I got to go back here. Yeah. So I get back to where Ray and here we go. Right. Come on, Brian. Here. Here we go. So again, they're talking about the specifics. We were here on this day. It's sunny. It's this. It's that. Whatever. And he says it was important that he tossed the saber, and it's not something that I care for how he tossed it. The over his shoulder thing bothers me. It would have really played better if that's what you want him to do. Had him toss it to the side in the same motion that he used when he tossed it aside with his dad. That motion there is the one that's a little says it made a lot of sense to him. Ryan says made a lot of sense to me, right? Okay, he's come to this island in terms of why is he here? And the first thing I had to do when I was writing the script was figure out why is Luke on this island? Because we had the enigmatic kind of shit at the end of Force Awakens. We see his face. We wonder what's going on. I'm going to just read the commentary so you guys can see. He knows his friends are fighting the good fight. Okay, so that's one. He knows his friends are fighting the good fight. You say, well, Santa, right there is a problem because in Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, right? He leaves Yoda because his friends are in trouble. Like he breaks his promise that he's going to complete his training. He kind of goes off to save his friends. It's completely out of character for him if he knows his friends are in peril for him not to go. So that's the first part, right? I've listened to this. He's exiled himself way out here, right? And taken himself out of it. Ryan's asking, well, why would this happen? And so I had to figure out why. I knew because it's Luke Skywalker, who I grew up with as a hero. I knew the answer couldn't be cowardice. Now, I want to stop it again. Because this is the narrative, right? He's a coward. He's somehow a quitter, whatever. Brian is saying, I knew that this couldn't be the answer, right? It couldn't be cowardice. It's got to be something else. And I knew it had to be something active, right? I go back to, and he couldn't just be hiding. It had to be something positive. Go back again to the original trilogy, right? His friends are in trouble. He has to do something active. And Ryan's saying, okay, it's got to be, it's not passive. It's not coming out of a place of fear or anything like that. It's an active decision, right? So keep going. He said, and he thinks he's doing the right thing. Let it play. And he gets distracted. Ryan gets distracted by the boards. and so he kind of chases a rabbit a little bit. And then he comes back to it. He says, it led to the notion that he's compelled, or he's come to the conclusion from all given evidence that Jedi are not helping. And they're just perpetuating the kind of cycle, and they need to go away so that light can rise from another source. All right. So again, there's a lot more to this, and I don't want to spend all of our time rehashing what's in here. This gives you the perspective of the director, the writer. Like, where was his head when he was writing this? What was he trying to accomplish? Now, we can have an argument, and we can have a discussion. Did he accomplish what he wanted to accomplish? Did he achieve what he intended to achieve? And we can talk about that, but understand that he wasn't writing a sorrowful, dejected quitter. Luke Skywalker. And the documentary that goes with this gives you more of that. And the book, like, if you're really still just really bothered by Last Jedi and you can't get past it, I'd encourage you to try these things. If you can, right? Otherwise, just step away and let it not be there, because they're the prequels. I've had to work on them for a very long time, for a couple of decades. and I'm just now to a point where I can enjoy them, but still have my problems with them. So, look, I don't think anybody's...
Santa,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I wanted to make a literature point for people because we all know each other in these streams. So I talk about it all the time with Sheev. We love Star Wars Rebels, right? On different levels, it's got different narrative highs and lows. But if you read the book where Kanan and Hera meet and they kind of fall in love or they learn about each other, there's like Andor stuff because they're stripping the planet, and there's all these other facets of Star Wars. If you didn't read that book, you just don't have a little bit of that part of Rebels. But it's okay. And you don't have to read this. I was saying you don't have to.
Right. Well, and that's the other side of the argument. It's like, if I watch a movie, I should understand what they're trying to say when I watch the movie. I shouldn't have to go read stuff to figure it out.
Well, but I feel like this movie is very decisive with its messaging, right? Like it's very, yes, that first scene, he throws a saber over his shoulder and you figure out why he is the way he is. They tell this story of why he's exiled himself, how he's come back, and really, I mean, no different than, everybody loves A New Hope. No different than Kenobi, right? Failed Jedi go into exile sometimes. Not all of them fight the good fight. Sometimes you gotta retreat and gather yourself and figure out the way, right? It's not always a time sensitive journey, right? I mean, Kenobi's in the desert for 19 years. Luke does his thing for X amount of time. Also, it's a parallel that people forget when they're watching these movies, that the stories that these guys are telling, they're also basing off of stuff that they watched as children also.
Levi, I know you and I kind of did the same thing where it was after the fact we went back and like dove into the literature.
I just really dove into Star Wars again, like for everything. Like I revisited the original trilogy, and since then I've watched all the movies a number of times, and now like I am a super fan. But I mean, it's interesting, Santa. So you were showing that documentary. Have you read the Last Jedi like art book at all, or were you making?
I have.
Okay, yeah, because I pulled the quote here because earlier I made reference to how I think a lot of what Ryan did was informed by what George did. Is he says here, ultimately Luke's exile and his justifications for it are all covering up his guilt over Kylo. The big gloss that he's putting over the whole thing is the Force does not belong to the Jedi. This ongoing dynamic between the Jedi and the Sith just keeps renewing itself and keeps feeding the fire, which in the movie is referenced where we get a reference directly to the prequels, like, which I appreciate as a fan. He said like he referenced Darth Sidious, like in the sequels he talks about events in the past, which I thought was really cool. But it's time for this old religion to die so that the truth about God can rise from elsewhere, basically, so that a more worthy God can rise. It's really hard, and that's going to cause a lot of pain, but that's what has to happen. So I'm going to do the hardest thing I've ever done, what I couldn't do in Empire Strikes Back, and not answer the call to my friends, so that the Jedi Order dies and something new has to rise to pull the light up. And I think that is such a fascinating way of framing it that like once I read that, I was like, oh my God, like how can anyone not see that Luke Skywalker he's trying to base it in this decision from Empire of like, you can't go with your friends. But he's like, what if I didn't? Like, I got my hand cut off and Han Solo got frozen in carbonite. So if Luke's thinking about that with the additional context of the history of the Jedi in the prequels, he's like, I shouldn't do this at all. Like, if this is, you can see where the logic is coming from. And just
he lost the Youngling Slayer 9000. I mean,
I know it's tough. And just one final point, because that saber toss is like what everyone talks about. And that is just such a tragic case of like they used the wrong take, because everyone thinks it was played as a joke, but if you watch the commentary, which he recorded before the movie came out, it was not intended to be funny. And they did other takes where he like throws it forward and it plays way better. It's just like the over the shoulder in the theater, like people laughed, but like that's not what's supposed to be happening. You're supposed to go like, oh, that's not good. So that's just like a case of the wrong take. But You know,
Yeah,
everyone
I
everyone
agree.
talks about it. It's the
My theory a little bit is that, I mean, and we'd have to juxtapose it with Levi because he's younger, but the three of us are older, and so we've seen different experiences over time. I think either you're a very progressive person and you work with people of different faiths, like Luke went around and saw people, and then he's like, oh yeah, we're not the only way. Santa's like that. Santa's still conservative, but he works with people with different. I'm super liberal, but I work with people that are different. And so, like, I think that's where we maybe have a context to see the beauty in The Last Jedi, and someone else is like, nope, that's not my guy, and they just can't get past it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
but a lot of people also look. I mean, a lot of people also don't understand, you know, PTSD in a large way, and I
Yep.
feel like this I catch a lot of crap for this, but this is in a large way, you know, you can only fail so many times before you have to take yourself off the board, right? And
Wow.
so this, you know, this movie in particular, this Luke arc in particular reminds me very much of Flynn in Tron, right? Where you get to this place where you fight the fight and you fight the fight and you fight the fight and you finally realize fighting the fight makes the other side stronger. Fighting the fight takes it out of you when you're alone in the fight, and sometimes it's better to reset the board by taking yourself off of it, right? And
Yeah.
for me, that's very much how this felt. Look, I fought the fight, I lost, then I won. Then I started over and then I lost again. And twice in my lifetime, I have failed so hard. And now the more I fight, the more I lose. So
Well, let me also just express this, and I've said this publicly before. I've dealt with mental health issues the bulk of my life, and I didn't know what it was until much later. It goes back to when I was a early teenager, and huge feelings of depression tied back to when I was a kid and some trauma I went through. Don't want to retell the whole story, but the reason I played the trombone and became a musician was, in a large way, a response to the depression I was going through. It was a way for me to work it out. And anytime that I was going through really emotional trials in my life, diving into music, diving into practicing, diving into I would work at the trombone I'm sweating, like I was just trying so hard to focus somewhere else. And I can remember like crying over being upset about something and playing the trombone until I quit crying, right? Like those are issues that I dealt with my entire life. And when you have a voice in your head telling you what a horrible person you are, what a loser you are, how bad you are, how you fail at everything, and how you are just making things worse, that is a demon that you have to push out. And it's a very real problem, my friends. Like we've heard some recent issues of very famous people committing suicide. Who you're like the latest one was Twitch, right? Like Ellen DeGeneres's Twitch. We enjoyed seeing him dance on So You Think You Can Dance. We enjoyed him his on Ellen. Robin Williams, another one, and there was Reba McEntire, right? Like these are tragic things that people deal with, and and this is just a public service here. If you're dealing with any kind of struggle like that, and you're part of this community, you have friends. You have friends that care and love you. And I know this because I have friends who care and love me who are here as well, and who have done really, really important things for me. And I just want to make sure that you all know that. And part of the story of The Last Jedi is, you were talking about PTSD, is also Luke dealing with this very severe case of depression from, as I think Obsession put really well earlier, like remembering back to Empire, remembering
But
the
think of how many
failures.
people, like, think about it. Like when
You're almost making it too human. It's not necessarily depression. It's the dark side. Jedi learn to detach with love. That's what Jedi do. People in the United States or any place else, it's not political, it's not religious. It is called detachment, people. Jedi, detachment. Read about it, and then let's keep talking about it.
at the same time, it's a big thing when you think about, look, the young man lived a war, right? So he lived through a war, watched his father die, saving his life, goes on to train his nephew and fails and loses him, and then feels like he, basically he lost, and he didn't learn the lesson that Yoda was trying to teach him all those years ago, that failure is okay, right? He didn't learn that lesson. So it's a commentary on a lot of things, but ultimately this guy went through some stuff and he took himself off the board, not because he was scared, not because of any of that, maybe because he couldn't fight family again, right? Like there's so many reasons to want to remove yourself from the board as this person who has lived this existence, who has done this, and then go back and say, I had to fight my father and I had to almost kill my father to win, right? Now I have to fight my sister's son, right? Like this is traumatizing. This is something that people forget about this little stuff. It's not just, another dark side user. It's not another Sidious. It's not another Dooku. It's not another Grievous. This is a family member. And the only way to win is to kill them most times, right?
That's a really good point you make, and I want to tie it back and then move on to the next part of the discussion, because this is a wonderful discussion. Thank you all. This is really great. The part of what the movie teaches us as well, and the sequels as a whole, is with powerful light comes powerful dark, and with powerful dark, as Snoke says, darkness rises, light comes up to meet it, right? And he's expecting it to be Luke, but he finds out it's Rey, right? So this whole dynamic of powerful dark, powerful light, and part of the message. Love you, Mike.
Facing the darkness. Facing the darkness.
Yeah, and it's Luke is purposely detaching from the Force so that the light is not exceeding the dark, right? He's seeing darkness rise in his nephew, and his nephew's going further and further into the dark. And Luke has this in his head that with powerful light comes powerful dark, the balance. And it could be a wrong message. I get that too. People are like, that's not how the Force works, Brian. I'm like, yeah, I know. But remember too that Luke is often a knucklehead, right? Like, how many times did Yoda say, like, you need to unlearn what you think you know, dude, because you're dumb. You're dumb, right?
Well,
so
he didn't really have proper instruction. I mean, really, he has the most broken instruction of any Jedi ever, right? So to expect this person to be the Messiah, right? To view this person as the Messiah of Star Wars is difficult, because out of all of the people we see on screen, he is the least trained.
Right. Well, that's it. That's a good point. Nikki, I love Nikki. She is like a spirit animal for me. Right. Like she is all the darkness that I push out. She just embraces it, and she is that darkness. No, she's a dear friend, and I love you, Nikki. Thank you. No, I want to just say that he was, and Ryan talks about this active thing that Luke is doing something active. He's sacrificing himself. He's sacrificing all that he loves. He's sacrificing his family, his friends, his religion. He's sacrificing everything to save his nephew. As you said, like maybe he doesn't want to fight family again, right? He had this fight with his dad, right? He's had this before, and now he knows his nephew he's lost to the dark side. Which again, I get people say, well, he would never give up on his nephew. He's not giving up on his nephew. He believes that by sacrificing the light, sacrificing his religion, sacrificing all of this, that he is saving his nephew. And this is his attempt to save his nephew. It's a thing out of an act of love, not a hate or out of despair or failure.
Well, and doing nothing is still a choice.
It is.
The choice to do nothing is still a choice.
And it's one of the things that gets him so upset when Ray shows up. He's like, "What do you think I'm going to do? Just go right on back? Go
I'm
ahead,
gonna
Levi."
take my laser sword. That's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie is the fact that he uses the laser sword verbiage in the movie.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Levi.
I realize, we've been going, I think, on and on rightly about how Ryan contextualized and rationalized the decision within the story. But also, I want to make the point that it's the wrong choice, and that the movie says that it's the wrong choice, and that by the end of the movie, this is not what he's supposed to be doing.
So,
and he thinks that as well. And that is always like something that I feel is lost in the debate, especially on so many
that's
levels.
really good.
But
And
by
I know
cutting
that
himself- but by cutting himself off from the rest of the masters, right, and by cutting himself off completely from everybody and everything, he has no one to guide him. Right? He's made a unilateral, like Santa was saying, he's made a unilateral decision as a bonehead to detach instead of look for guidance. He's so heartbroken, right? That scene with R2 where he's watching his school and the students, the dead bodies on the floor. He's broken, right?
Yeah.
He's making this decision heartbroken. He's not
Yeah.
looking for guidance. He's unilaterally said, R2, if things really get bad, here's where to find me. You're the only one I trust in the whole galaxy. Later, dude. And he bails out.
Yeah, I know we're limited on time because Levi's got to leave us in just a few minutes, and I want to make sure we get.
Well, I think I might be pushing back because I love this discussion so much.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to ask Levi some trivia soon.
I know, I got that book back there.
So Cheesy Fish says it's not how Luke explains it in the movie, and I brought this up before. There's a valid criticism to be had in Ryan's execution of the story that he intended to tell.
Sure.
Many of us can see it. Many of us are attached to it, and we feel it, right? We're along for the ride. But for a large a number of fans, the movie doesn't contextualize it or tell that plainly enough for them to associate it with. In fact, it almost tells the opposite of what Ryan says he intended to tell or what we actually may see ourselves. So
Well, that's sort of the point I wanted to make about The Last Jedi in general, because I think the biggest thing that detractors of the film take away from it is the whole let the past die angle. But why I love The Last Jedi is because that's not what the movie to me is saying at all. The movie is yes, in the first 2/3, it challenges a lot about Star Wars, but then the last third of the movie, to me, reinforces everything we love about Star Wars. It's the villain who's saying, let the past die. Rey does take up the mantle. Luke does come back. He does inspire the galaxy again. And that's why the movie, it connects with me so much. It's my favorite Star Wars movie, is because it doesn't actually reject Star Wars. It reinforces every single thing I love about Star Wars in all these ways. And, Luke, to me, the movie does show you that about Luke. I mean, the moment when he reconnects with the Force and he feels his sister, he feels Leia, and all that emotion just comes coming back into him, and it cracks the rocks around. Like that's the moment. Like he realizes he is wrong and he has to change. And this experience with Rey, opened him up to that again. And
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So
Well,
let me
I don't
ask
think it's wrong. Yeah.
no, let me ask the
It was
second
meant
part
to
of the
be.
question.
The Force is leading all this. The Force was there before, the Force is there after, and it's got different names, and it's leading the whole charge.
Yeah.
For me.
Let me ask the second part really plainly before we move to the third part. 5 years after the fact, where are you in relationship with The Last Jedi now? Are you just as in love with it as the time you came out? Do you like it more, less? What is your current relationship to The Last Jedi? And again, we'll just go in order. Obsession, what do you think?
Well, I'm watching it on my second screen right now as we're talking about it. So for me, this is, it just so happens we're getting to the Luke coming back scene. And for me, this is this whole scene where Luke comes back and fights his nephew as a phantom. It's for me, I still enjoy this flick. I know a lot of people don't, but for me, there's so much in here that I take away, and there's so much that I ignore, right? I ignore the things that I don't really care for instead of trying to harp on them. But I
love
take
that.
away the things that I enjoy. Like Luke, in this moment, he knows Kylo's still a kid. He's still a student. He's still a youngling, for that matter. And I'm going to play him right now. And I know exactly how to play him. I just got to taunt the kid to come out and play. And that's exactly what he does so that he can let the rebellion escape, right? Like, this is, for me, there's so much great stuff in here that overshadows the stuff that I don't like. So 5 years later, I'm still in it.
Great. Mike, where are you?
Yeah, I still love it. All 9 movies are completely Star Wars movies for me, even with the plot failure of this one in number 2 or that one in number 9. Like, it's a dope ass thing, and it's all there. All the ships, all the props, all the costumes, people. It's movie making. It's badassery. It's Star Wars. I don't get you, people. Call me. DM me, please.
I love you, Mike. That was great. That was absolutely great. Levi, where are you?
I think it's aged like a fine wine. I mean, I think Mike and Obsession have said a lot already, and I don't know. I appreciate more and more about the film every time I watch. We've talked a lot about Luke and pretty much just that, but there's a lot of other parts of this movie that I love too, and a completely underrated part of it. I really.
I mean, even the parts that we don't, even the parts that, even the parts that are maybe off. Like, we haven't gotten to the mom jokes, the dust your shoulder, the lightsaber is all because they're trying to pull in the zeitgeist of the time. But the DJ thing, that doesn't work, or it does maybe. Like,
see, I love DJ. That's appreciated for me. I love that. Just
that's what I'm saying.
The maybe he gives Finn, because Finn, in my opinion, Finn's arc is like the best in this movie. People who detract Finn, I think,
you could make a show called "She's Not That Into You," starring Finn and Rey.
Right. Like stuff like
go ahead,
movie,
Levi.
like, just I could gush and gush and gush about the way that subtly this movie, because this is the only Star Wars movie that is a direct continuation of another one of the saga. It is like a day after, and if not hours after in some scenes. That doesn't happen anywhere else.
The poster, it's brilliant. The poster, it's brilliant. The IMAX posters are fucking brilliant. I'm cussing on YouTube because I love it so much. Don't tell my kids.
And when you watch the movies, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, especially, you watch them in close proximity, you see how they speak to each other. And in my opinion, just the little things, like when Rey in the final battle of Crait she says, I like this when she's on the turret instead of flying, just like little, or when she feels the rain on Octo, like stuff like that, where you're clearly seeing this is like the next day, and these are still the same characters. And Finn, people are, I think, rightly are saying like, Finn, they should have made him a Jedi. They don't like that stuff in Last Jedi, and I think that's a fair take to have. But for it is the next day for this guy, and he starts the movie. He didn't end the movie being a Resistance hero. He just wanted to be with Rey. Like, his end character before he gets sliced in half was the I'm the janitor, and Han going like, that's not how the Force works. Like, that's where he ended. So he has to become like this Resistance hero. And his fight with Phasma, I think, is just so underrated. Like, the way that is shot, the way that looks, that moment for him. I know this is like people hate that stuff, but to me, that is some of the best stuff in the movie.
BB-8 driving the ATS.
I don't like the ATST isn't but like the fight with specifically Phasma, and this is something for me that only expanded more and more as I dived in and understood Phasma as a character and read that novel and got her perspective and all that stuff. And to me, I can't like unenhance that moment.
So
what
quick,
it means for him
quick sidebar,
because DJ says maybe, he says no.
Armor Beskar? Like, let's talk about this.
No, it's not Beskar.
It's chromium.
All right, it's made out of Padme's ship.
It is.
Copy that.
That is.
God damn.
One of the Naboo yachts.
That Phasma book is so fire. That Phasma book is so fire. If you don't understand who Phasma is, you don't understand.
So let me
I agree with Levi.
Let me just reemphasize, because I agree with most of what all of you have said, and I think Obsession really put it well for me, because in the prequels, I have to take the parts I like and just ignore the parts I don't. Right? It's still, for me, a difficult watch. and this leads to the next part of our discussion. For me, the prequels are still a difficult watch because there's so much I still don't like. More than 20 years later, right? I still don't. There are parts of them but there are golden nuggets in there that are priceless. And my least favorite Star Wars movie of all time, Attack of the Clones, is still my least favorite movie of all time. It has not grown on me.
All time.
But there are parts of it. There are parts of it that now have more context to them, and especially the Dooku parts. And when I watch Attack of the Clones now, a lot of it is still cringe. A lot of it is still like terrible. But there are parts of it now that I really like. So I think
will have your support now.
There's so much I hate. But at the same time, I can just say, and it leads to the next part of the discussion. Where are we going to be 5 years from now, 10, 15 years from now?
Oh, I think people are going to be pissed in 5 years.
Oh, no way. People are gonna
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hold on. Let me. I'll go first this time, and then we'll pass it around. Because of my connection to the prequels, I think people like in our chat who say, look, they hate it. I don't think they'll ever grow to just be like, you know what, I was wrong. Last Jedi was my least favorite, but now it's like solid number 3. Right? I don't think that'll happen. But what I do think is over time, and I hope, is that they'll do what Obsession said and you'll pick the parts that you can enjoy, and you'll just kind of ignore the parts that you don't, and just let the story tell itself. And as we add more to the story through the Mandoverse, through Filoni and what he's building, I think you'll be able to look at it from a little bit different perspective. You can still hate it, right? You can still like, no, that ain't for me, man. But there'll be parts of it, perhaps, where you can watch a segment of it and say, that segment, that resonates with me. At least I hope. So, Obsession, go ahead.
Oh, I want to go last this time.
Okay, all right. Mike, you're dying to
I don't
go.
want to ruin anybody's day.
Go ahead.
I just think that, I went on live with Josh and I told him, in theory, if you've never heard of the saying, take what you like and leave the rest, it's a great life philosophy. I agree with Santa. Theory, like seeing things in Andor that he never saw before, and then Josh, stepping away for whatever reason he did. I'm just telling you that I can see we've jumped the shark. People are going to be able to appreciate The Last Jedi later as a movie. It's not going to be this hot fire fandom bullshit. Like, that's just something that we do to ourselves so we're distracted. For me, I think we're going to be fine. Star Wars forever.
That's good. Levi, where do you think we'll be 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Well, 5, I don't know, but 10, 15, I think it's the same. Look at you. Like, you don't like Attack of the Clones. That movie came out 20 years ago, but I think the way people talk about it has certainly cooled off a little bit. It's not the same level of toxicity. And right. I think it's gonna be much the same way. Already people always like hypothetically talk about how the generation who grew up with the sequels is going to age into it, and then there's going to be that's like you're already starting to see it. I wasn't a content creator when I saw it at 16, but I'm 21 now, and now this is something that I get to share. Like, I like that movie. That movie is an important part of my life, and that's like one of my Star Wars movies. And so. Yeah. I don't know. I just don't see. I think ultimately, just look at the way we've had this chat today and interact with the chat. Like, I think we're already starting seeing the temperature turn down. That it's not, the rage clicks on Rian Johnson aren't getting as many clicks anymore. I don't think. Hopefully. So I don't know. I think we'll be in a good place. I think it'll age pretty well.
Yeah. Obsession.
Oh, the fandom's going to be on fire. I've been saying it for a while. All roads lead here. Right. And everybody hates that. Right. That's the thing that everybody hates to hear me say, probably more than anything, is that all roads lead to the sequels, and everything that they're building now is a bridge to what we are going to get. So the fact that we get Luke's new Jedi temple in Mando, and we see the same temple as in The Last Jedi. These tissues are going to connect, and this stuff is going to connect. And so for me, I feel like this is going to age beautifully for myself and the rest of the shills of the Star Wars community, because it is going to age better as Dave starts to connect the dots, right? So it's a long journey ahead, but that's what all of this is building to. And maybe I'll be wrong down the road. I have been wrong a lot, but this is something that I believe Dave is actively doing, just based on what we've seen in Mando, what we're going to see in Ahsoka, what Skeleton Crew is going to give us. All of these shows, all roads lead to Force Awakens.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I want to say something that I think Mike and I want to touch base on. And I'm gonna use Levi as an example. Look, I absolutely love Levi, and you're a great member of the fandom. And as a 21-year-old who is just coming into adulthood, that over time, you and people like you, your peers, will become the voices of Star Wars fandom in the future. Long after I'm gone, when you're white and bald like me, you'll be a voice that's been around for 30 years. And my daughter, right, I got to experience these movies with my kids, especially my youngest. We went and saw these, and we have positive memories from them. My daughter will have positive memories of these movies because they was what she got to experience with her dad. Regardless of the movie itself, there are going to be positive memories based on experiencing this with her dad. And for me, that's also tied me more to those movies. And to be honest, her enjoyment of the prequels has also helped with me having a better relationship to them, because she loves them. She's like, Dad, I think you're dumb. I don't understand why you don't like them. But, and she makes me watch them over and over again. And I do. Why? Because I love her. And I love spending time in Star Wars and spending time with her watching Star Wars. Right?
You need a T-shirt that has a picture of you and her, and it just says "Wizard," because you're so excited about life.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No, that's I just feel like this is going to age better over time. I think everything that we're seeing created now is going to age better over time as the dots start to get connected.
Well, it's also, maybe we'll finally get a payoff that so many people want of, like, we'll get a Finn Jedi show. We'll get to see what some of these characters do after the fact, and that will only further enhance, what came before. We'll go back and see. I mean, even with from Tross to Force Awakens, like watching Force Awakens with the context that Finn is Force sensitive adds a whole new layer to that movie for me anyway. And like when Kylo looks at him in the village and like adding to that moment and everything, there's a lot of stuff in there that you're like, oh, what's going on here? Like maybe this was sort of in the cards the whole time, and it actually plays kind of well. So one part of Tross that I think unequivocally everyone likes is that Finn is Force sensitive. Everyone likes that. We can all agree, right? We like that. But if we get a show where we explore him and Rey becoming Jedi, then we're going to see like, oh, look at the start of this journey. And I don't like some stuff in the middle here, but look where we are now. And that could happen too.
Yep.
For me, I think it's about the Force, people. Like maybe we just don't even take Star Wars's like temperature anymore. Maybe we just trust the Force. For me, especially because we have a lot of Lord of the Rings fans in this stream, like we were never around dissecting in between chapters and telling Tolkien what to do and all this bullshit. Like, and that's why people are upset right now, because they don't know how to feel about, but I do like to dissect. I don't like to dissect. I do. I don't.
Well, and I'm not one to criticize.
Trust the Force.
Well,
I'm not going to criticize how somebody wants to enjoy something, right? Like, if that's how you want to enjoy it by criticizing it, then you do that. I mean, if that makes you happy, that brings you enlightenment and happiness, well, great.
Well,
I don't like it, so I'm not.
The only thing I can say is build your own opinion, right? Do not take the opinions of any of us or anyone else on the internet. Base your own opinions and form your own facts, or form your own opinions. Watch things for yourself, dissect them for yourself, and figure out how you feel. Don't let somebody on the internet dictate how you feel or tell you how to feel or pressure you into feel. There's a lot of people out there like, well, I just go off what the internet tells me. Well, that's not, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
Yeah. I want to tell you guys, Star Wars Melvin put out a post overnight where he sings a song about Alex Damon. It is brilliant. It's hilarious. I laughed my butt off.
You mean Star Wars Explained?
Yes. And this guy is funnier than I'll ever be. He's great. I disagree with like his whole premise.
Everything he is. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, let him live. And he does it. He does it. I know he's got something in the works coming up just in a couple of days. He's gonna expose Santa, and I can't wait. I can't wait, you guys. I'm watching. So it's like let people enjoy what they enjoy the way they want to enjoy it, and if an obsession, amen, 100%. Like, don't let somebody else tell you what to think of it. Just think of it what you enjoy, right? I don't know how else to say it. You did that really well. It's great.
I had my moments.
Well, look, I've enjoyed this discussion with you all today, and I agree that I think Filoni has a plan. We're going to see adaptations of the sequels into a lot more Star Wars content. We've already seen like Maz Kanata brought in to the High Republic era. We're going to see her again, I think, very soon. And in fact, I know of it in the High Republic comics. I've already seen like the adverts for the new stuff coming out, and she's in that for sure.
Yeah, she is. So is Dexter Jester, and it's freaking sweet.
How about Yoda's personality? You want to know more about Yoda? Why don't you read the High Republic and find out how his personality was when he was 200 compared to 600? Like, just put it in perspective. It's about perspective with art for me.
And I think we're going to see. And Meg made a prediction the other day on the show where she said we're going to see Snoke in Mando.
We already did. Freaking, the Siege, man. Like,
they played
the theme.
Yeah, they played the Snoke theme.
Wait. What are you talking about, Willis?
Mando clones.
In the Siege, when they go into the Imperial base and they're like talking about the M counts, and they pan over to like a bunch of tanks when they're like, you hear like, You're like, come on, like we know what they're doing.
Yeah, like I said, all roads, man. It doesn't matter which road you're on, whether you're on road.
You're scaring people by saying where the road ends. The road doesn't end there.
No, but that's where
the Chiss call their Force users Skywalkers. It's going in that direction. It's going to the fourth dimension. It's going back to the High Republic. There is no direction in Star Wars. If you think there's a direction to the Force, maybe you're wrong. The Force doesn't have a direction.
These storytellers have a direction.
I know,
and all of these coalesce. Let me rephrase. All these paths coalesce at The Force Awakens.
I agree. And I'll say that I mentioned it with Jason on a really long stream yesterday. I think that they're retelling Heir to the Empire. They're cherry picking out of Heir to the Empire and putting pieces of it here and there. We know Mount Tantus. Well, we know Mount Tantus is already in. Well, Mount Tantus is already in Bad Batch season 1. I think it's going to be in season 2. We've got Snoke. I mean, not Snoke. We've got Thrawn, right? Thrawn was invented.
Grogu in Mandalorian. You think they were taking him back to Mount Tantus? Like that's.
Well, we'll get there. I'm just pointing out, like Thrawn came from Heir to the Empire. That's where he was invented, right? Mount Tantus was invented. Coruscant was invented. A lot of it came from Heir to the Empire, and it's my supposition that Snoke is Sabayoth.
Yeah, you're saying that.
Yeah, I said it's me. But anyway, hey, you guys, next Thursday we're going to do a little bit special Guardians of the Whills. We're going to talk about 2022, the best of, the worst of, and my friend, only one Kenobi, only one. Yeah, only one. He is going to join us for this discussion, and we're talking about the vintage collection toys that came out this last year from Hasbro. He's going to join us, and we'll try to get a couple
Hey, how
other
about that
guests.
deluxe Boba Fett, huh? Best figure in like ever. That's what I'm saying.
So we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. Best of, worst of 2022. Next Thursday, Guardian of the Whills with only one Kenobi and hopefully a couple other guests. We've still got to line up. So final thoughts, my friends, as we close out the show today. Obsession, what are your final thoughts?
Oh, I think Star Wars is on a good trajectory. I think it was a banger year, some ups and downs, but overall, next year is going to be even more fire. So, life is good for content creators. You just got to stop being so lazy.
In specific to the Last Jedi, any other thoughts to? Or
no, I mean, I love the film. Again, I don't dislike anything. It's very hard for me to go, I'm out. There's very few shows and programs, specifically with Star Wars that I don't get into. So for me, it's always a W on getting content. We could have got nothing.
Yeah. Which is probably what would have been the case if Lucas was still in charge of Lucasfilm. Jedi Mike, any last thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are we could have a whole nother show because of the plot and the characters and all the sets and everything about the actual movie making stuff is fascinating. And that I talk about, we are blessed to be in a place in our lives where we get to talk about this stuff, like that's just an amazing thing that we get to be here and talk about that stuff. And then just the last thing, my supposition is that all of this, right? The reason that I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about with shills or grifters and stuff is because the intellectual property rights of Star Wars and MCU, like, are people getting paid or not? Are artists getting paid or not? Like, the reasons that people have problems with some of this stuff and the way that they receive it is because it's a very confusing life out there. So keep asking questions and keep coming back to Star Wars. That's what I'm going to do.
Great. Levi, thank you for joining today. I know it was you even stayed long. Thank you so much.
I love talking about Star Wars with you guys. And in terms of last thoughts, it's like, yeah, we could have kept. We didn't talk about really Kylo Ren at all in this movie, or Snoke, or like actually in the film. And there's so much for me.
Or porgs. I was going to bring out my porgs.
Yeah, there's a lot for me. There's a lot to love in this movie. That's just general Star Wars fun. I don't know. I like this movie, and I think I'll continue to like this movie. That's me.
I'm
big fan of Moden Kennedy.
There's no Grogu without Force.
Moden Kennedy. He's the best. Everybody.
Look, you guys are right. Like we could have had a much longer stream going into. I know Mike came prepared with his visual reference guide, and there's all kinds of trivia, all kinds of fun we could have gotten into, but we'll save that maybe for another day. And I know people have suffered through the shill stream already, and I appreciate you all being here. I really, really do. There could be Meg, remember when 2022 was going to be the year of Star Wars? Now we're like 2023. That's going to be the year of Star Wars.
It's like it's to be continued. It's 2022 was the year of Star Wars, really.
Yeah, keep buying, people. Buy, and use the coupons this year. The coupons are going to work this year.
Well, 2023 looks to be exciting, and we'll see we'll see how things are received by the fandom. Nikki has been corrected in the chat where so much of the nerdy content, Star Wars, you name it, has been politicized, and there's a lot of debate out there that's all on the political angle of it, and that's what Mike's saying he's disconnected from, and I appreciate that. But and that's what I've tried to focus the channel on. I've tried to focus the discussion today on just the content, and let's enjoy Star Wars for what it is. And if The Last Jedi isn't your cup of tea, well, go get a cup of coffee. It'll be all right. All right. So I'll leave it at that. You guys, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun for me, and I appreciate the discussion. Obsession, anytime, my friend.
Yeah.
Great to see you again. And Levi, dude, you're the man. Thanks so much. All right, you guys, take care. I've got to end
doing
the
your
stream.
good artwork and stuff, guys. I love to watch you guys.
I gotta end the stream in the control room, so no outro today. But thank you so much for being here, you guys. Until next time, my friends. Ho ho ho! Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Bye bye.
Be